It's late in the day. We've just been overhauling the mower, and you can check that video out. But I'm just going to have a quick look at the fit out in the rear of the Troopy, because I pulled off the tail lights and there's a bit of rust in them. I'll show you what I mean. So these are not real tail lights, they're just dummies because they use the ones there, and if you fit lights they've got to be working. So the idea is they just put on a dummy cover. But you can see the rust in there. And while that's pretty serious, it's not structural, so I just need to see if I can get in behind it. It's actually down in here that I've got to get, and all of this is a fixture. And so it's a matter of pulling it all out, part by part, bit by bit. Not all of it is fastened. Some of it, like this for example, is just jammed in. But it's too late in the day to start on that, so let's look at something else. And that is this. This is the panel that fits in underneath the windscreen. And it's in pretty good shape, but underneath is probably a little bit of surface rust. So this is Action Gel, and the caution on the back says this is for action men. So if you're not one of those, this product is not for you. But I'd gone into the paint place, and that's what it's actually called, the paint place, to get some Penetrol. And he said, what are you going to put on the top? And I said, oh, just spray can stuff from Super Cheap, you know. And he said, oh, you can't put acrylic on top of this, because apparently the solvents in acrylic fries the solvents in the enamel, and Penetrol is enamel based. So he suggested that, you know, a man like me needs Action Gel. So well, who am I to argue? So that's what we've gone with, and I've painted that on now, and it's been on now for, I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes, and it says leave for about 30. But I don't know, I get a bit impatient. It does seem to be doing the trick, so maybe let's give it another, I don't know, 10. In the meantime, we'll find something else to do. I'm pretty impressed. That's actually taken off all of the rust marks that you'll recall you could see in here. So definitely a product for action men. Sun's just setting, so I'm thinking it's time for us to what do you reckon, love? Last time you saw me pull off the air intake, and I've cleaned that up now. It's got a split in it right here, and someone has put Silastic, which is amazing adhesive, which means that it's adhered and I can't really get it apart. So I've picked up a second-hand one, which is here. It's exactly the same, though it has the top hat rather than the air scoop. But that's no big deal because they're just a clamp-on fitting. Now today what we want to do is peel off this masking tape. We've now sprayed this and also the panel that fits in here, and I'll show you that in a moment. But let's pull this masking tape off. It's been on here a lot longer than I'd like. The masking tape tends to harden, so I'm hoping it's going to come off okay. Let's talk about batteries. We rely on batteries a lot. I mean, these two cameras, this one here for example, and the one that I'm filming with, have batteries in them, and as you've seen in earlier videos, sometimes they just stop. The cameras just stop, you know, and there's no warning. It's not like when you've got a petrol motor running and it runs out of fuel, the noise stops. But with the camera it just stops. And the other day I was doing some filming of the painting of that front panel and underneath the windscreen, and the little battery in this fell asleep, and that meant that I just recorded a bunch of silent movies. Anyway, look, what we'll do is finish that off, but I also wanted to talk about a couple of things. One is that in that I spoke about the amount of paint that I used for just that tiny panel and for the little strip underneath the windscreen, and you know, that entire can was used, and these are about, I don't know, 17 or 20 bucks or something like that. So it's a fairly expensive way of painting. So I have now got some cans of paint, and I'll show you that in a moment. So it'll be time to break out the air compressor and the spray gun, and do some other painting, but that's still to come. Now the other thing I got was the sound deadening. And that is the sound deadening mats. That's that butyl rubber ones. And I've also ordered some van matting, which is still to come, which is the rolls of closed cell foam adhesive on one side. And I used them in the other Troopy, so I'll go and have a look and I'll show you what they look like on the other side. Anyway, the other thing that I got myself was, because as you know, I do pride myself on my appearance. And I always wear this hat. I think this is I came from, you know, RSEA or whatever it is, a safety place. Anyway, I got myself one of these, a Solbari sun hat, which is certified to 5 million PAs or whatever it's called. What is it on here? Oh, here we go, UPF 500,000. So it'll take a nuclear explosion. Anyway, let's check it out. I haven't actually. The trouble with ordering stuff online, of course, is that you just never know if you're going to get the right size. So let's give it a shot. Oh, that's perfect. Perfect. So apparently now I can withstand a nuclear explosion without roasting my head to the paint, which has magically appeared here in front of me. Now, what we've got here is the base coat. Now this has been mixed to the Troopy white. Then there's also etch primer in case you get down to bare metal, plus primer filler, and of course thinner. Now all of this was to about $250. Yeah, so it's really only the equivalent of about 10 or 15 of those tiny little cans, and this theoretically will cover 10 square meters. Now obviously you're going to need a lot more than 10 square meters, because I have no idea how many square meters there is in a vehicle like this, but you've also got to do 2 or 3 coats. But the idea with starting out with this is I can just do small areas as I patch them up, and then see how much I might need to continue on with the job. Now the other thing I told you about was the sound deadening, and that's also magically appeared right here. But just before we look at that, this is that panel that I sprayed with that can, so you get some idea of how little the can will actually cover, because that was pretty well it. That and the strip underneath the windscreen, you know, maybe 2 coats. Let's get a knife and get this open. So this stuff is to go inside doors and panels. And if you've seen the early ones when I was doing the old Troopy, you'll see what a difference it makes to the doors. And these are the butyl rubber with the self-adhesive backing. The other thing we're going to check the other day too was light bulbs, and that one needed replacing, and that one too. Let's have a look at reattaching this panel. The only way really of getting this on is, because short of removing the bonnet, is to use a 1/4 inch imperial socket and a PH2 driver, because there's not a lot of room in there. So what we spoke about earlier was about the aerial, and I think the best way to pull the other one through is to see if we can drill out that a little so we can tape it in better. So there's a couple of things that we've got to be wary of, and that is that first of all we have to make sure that we can tape this to that so we can pull it through. The second thing is that there's actually a grommet down here, right there, that we've got to pull off and put, well, you can see that, is that in focus? Here. And put on the new one, because that's the one that's going to go through and then has to seal inside that wall. But the aerial itself comes with one there, so that's pretty well redundant. But let's pull this out of the pack. When last we spoke, I was talking about the aerial and the installation of that, and well, I didn't film any of that in the end because you don't really want to see a grown man cry. Didn't go as we expected it might have done, and I'll tell you about that. You can probably hear Millie telling the neighbours about it. It certainly wasn't a good day. So here's what happened. We drilled out the end of that cable, we stuck the new aerial into it, taped it up, started to pull the other one through. It got part way through and then just pulled right off. So in other words, we had nothing at all. So after about an hour or so of messing around, I finally managed to feed it through enough inside to be able to grab it and pull it through, only then to find that it just would not fasten in this little hole here. And the issue was, in fact, the aerial, in that by the time I'd fed it up through here and through here, there just simply wasn't enough thread. So I've no idea what they're supposed to fit, but I guess it's like a lot of that stuff that you buy, is you just really don't know until you try and fit it. Anyway, look, I took it back and they were kind enough to give me a refund, so I've got to now hunt around for another aerial. But in the meantime, because I'd already fed through the aerial cable, what I did do was pull the new one through, tied a shoelace to it, and now I've got a shoelace that runs between the engine bay and the interior. So once we get an aerial, we can then refeed that back through. The other day you saw me putting that panel back on underneath the windscreen, and it's a hell of a job because the screws that hold it are actually underneath where the bonnet hinges. It's very, very difficult to get to, and while I did it, it's going to have to come off at some point anyway, again. So I wondered if I've got a better method of undoing those screws and redoing them. So we went ahead and we got ourselves this. This is actually a right angle cordless wrench packed in an idiot proof box. So bear with me while I overcome my inner idiot and see if we can get it out. It's they've managed to tape up everything, but I think we've done it. Anyway, this is a skin only, so BYO battery, but I'll get to that in a moment. And this just may enable me, we'll have to check the depth to get into that tight space. It still may not do the trick, but it's worth a try anyway. Now, like I said, it's skin only, and so therefore BYO battery, but not so long ago I bought myself one of these, which is a rotary tool. So this is like a Dremel but cordless. And it's the exact same tool as in brand, and has the same battery. So this battery should fit the new tool. Like so. And now it's only a 12 volt tool, and it's only Tool Pro, which is a super cheap brand. I'm not expecting miracles, but if I can get most of the job done, and then I can tighten it up by hand once in. So let's go and see if it actually does fit under there. So at present what I have to do is to put a Phillips head bit into a 1/4 inch socket, and then that fits in there. But two problems arise. One is that first, there isn't really enough room for this to fit in as well. But the second one is that that's a 3/8 drive, and this is a 1/4 inch drive socket. We're no better or worse off than before. Back to the drawing board, but nevertheless, look, we will find a solution for that. What I do want to do today is to have a look at the fit out that's in the rear here. Just before we do, look what I found in the box. This is a 3/8 to 1/4 inch adapter. So theoretically it's possible, but of course obviously every little bit that you add adds to the length, so that's still not going to work, but we'll get there, we'll work it out. Just before we start, I've got the van matting now, and so now we have the sound deadening mats, those stick-on ones I showed you the other day, and this van matting, which I haven't yet opened up, so let's see how hard it is to get into. I think we're going to need a gun to get into this one. So here it is. So this stuff here is also self-adhesive, but you peel off the paper and stick it on, and it goes well underneath mats. Anyway, what we need to do is just to move the stuff over for now, because I actually don't have anywhere to store it, but if I put it all in the middle, I should be able to get to each side. So by shifting everything into the center as we've done here, what we can do is get into here to take a look at what's happening inside there, and I'll pull off that tail light. It's a bit of a miscalculation on my part, because it doesn't appear that in fact that tail light terminates in there at all. We do need to address, however, things like that tear there. And that is where from the outside you can see the denting. At the moment it has some angle aluminium over it, and that's covering that tear that's inside there. So along with the van matting and the sound deadening mats, I need to get myself some spray on or brush on sound deadening rust proofing paint, I suppose it is. And I did the other Troopy, I sprayed it into all of those inner panels, and so there's no reason why I can't do it again. I had I think it's called a Stutz gun, something like that, and I just need to go hunting for it amongst all of my rubble in the shed and see if I can find it. If not, well, I can just get myself another not very expensive 20 or 30 bucks. It's easier to spray that stuff on than it is to paint it on. Pongs a bit from memory, so you know, just wear a mask while you do it. Let's call that quits for now, and next time we'll have a look at the application of some of that rust proofing material, as well as maybe getting a start on some of that van matting and sound deadening material. And in the meantime, see if I can clear out the shed a little so I can get this stuff in, as well as see if I can find that gun that I was just talking about, that applicator gun. It could be in there, but you know, when you move house, as you know, sometimes they end up in all kinds of boxes, or they get chucked all together because sometimes it's just too difficult to shift everything. Anyway, that's it for now, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in the next exciting episode. Oh, meantime, take a look at the video that I made called Afternoon Delight, where I was exploring black and white videography, and it's something that I've kind of got hooked into, and I think that I'm going to make a few more of those. So stay tuned. See you soon.